Assalamu alaikum, I'm Carl Arundel and you are watching In Focus. Now, I'm delighted to be joined today, in fact honoured to be joined by Professor Ishaq Oloyede, who was just over a year ago appointed to the illustrious position of Secretary General of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. Now, the Council describes its mission to cater for, preserve, protect, promote and advance the interests of Islam and the Muslims throughout Nigeria, which, for your information, provides the spiritual lead to just over 80 million Muslims across Nigeria. Prior to his appointment at the Nigerian Supreme Council, Professor Oloyede was the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ilorin and formerly the President of the Association of African Universities. He is the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Interreligious Council. Assalamu alaikum, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, and welcome to Islam Channel.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Now, in your role as Executive Secretary of the National Interreligious Council, you've argued that the government, as a matter of urgency, needs to create jobs, to overhaul the infrastructure, and you've also said that government at all levels have an obligation to connect with the people, to listen to their grievances, to build trust in them, and to solve their everyday problems. And they must, as you said, stem the tide of violence in the country with a greater sense of responsibility to encourage citizens to play their civic roles. You have also said there should be a focus on addressing the ideological and doctrinal drivers of the conflicts plaguing the nation, saying that they must be seen to encourage and symbolize the core values of justice, honesty, accountability, transparency and integrity as a way of winning the trust of the people. Now, you seem to be calling for a redefining of the moral compass of the government. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, thank you very much. It's my view that there is a lot of artificiality going in the country. There is a disconnect between the people, the masses of the people, and the governors. And that means that you do not have direct link between the people and those who govern them. Then I'm looking at it from two sides. For those of us who are charged with the responsibility of mentoring people, we have the responsibility to ensure that we look at those issues, those teachings, those tutors who might be responsible for misinformation and misdirecting the people and correct where necessary. At the same time, we need to call on the government, which is what we do, because it appears to me that governments at various levels, at different levels in Nigeria, have become so distant from the people. They are also not bridging sufficient bridges. They are not, corruption is not being frontally addressed. They are not looking at the needs of the people. They have become an island on their own, and there is the need for the government in Nigeria to actually know the need of the people, address the people, more importantly, build confidence between the people and the government. There is a lot of mistrust. In Nigeria today, if government says good morning, many citizens will first of all look out to be sure it was not night. I believe that government should be just, be fair, be sincere in dealing with people, and you need legitimacy is not just by election. Legitimacy is by building confidence. You need to earn the confidence of the people. What we have is a situation that even myself, at my level, when something is said by the government, I have to re-examine it. I have to ask myself whether it is true or not, given my education. But then when you go back to the people, people now see. I had an experience when somebody is an undergraduate, somebody said something that was not true, and he said that was a budget. And I asked, why do you call that a budget? He said, budget is something that you say and you do not do. That tells you the level of mistrust between the people and the government. So what we are calling for is for the government to rebuild confidence and across religious, ethnic lines. There is the need for government to be seen, to present itself as holding the trust of the people and deserving to be respected, to be honored, and to be trusted by the people. But in a situation where you do not have the confidence that government is actually working for you, you have the impression that, oh, these people are different and they are in the world of their own. When some political leaders talk, you wonder whether we are in the same country, because what they say is not close to reality. And you think that somebody recently said an amount of money was not sufficient for a meal, whereas to most Nigerians, that amount that he mentioned was sufficient for 10 meals. So you wonder whether we are living in the same country. They are not sensitive to the feelings of the people, and they should. We expect the government to be very sensitive to even symbols they use to communicate that they really trust the people and they deserve to be trusted. On the other side too, we also believe that the populace, the citizens, should comport themselves in such a way that they will understand the government and be understood, and their needs will be made clear to the governors.
Now, so in a sense, you're saying that the government needs to set an example, if not anything else. But you talk about the disconnect.
Yes.
You talk about the lack of trust.
Yes.
You're also happen to be, with your many hats, chair of the Interfaith Anti-Corruption Advisory Committee. Yes. And you've suggested that religion is a potent tool, and I'm quoting you, for fighting corruption. Corruption, as I'm sure you'll agree, is rife across Nigeria. And you've expressed the belief, and I'm quoting you again, that current insecurity problems bedeviling the country might be connected with corrupt practices in the country. Yes. Can you explain why you think that religion is the answer, and how will your anti-corruption program implement itself?
I believe that many Nigerians, if not most Nigerians, are religious. They look forward to their religion for guidance. Though many will not follow the guidance, I'm conscious of that. They want to be outwardly religious without being internally religious. But my own knowledge as a student of Islamics, my knowledge of Islam tells me that religion properly understood will make people behave properly and will make people look forward to a reward in the hereafter and therefore want to do what is good. I believe that religion, if properly handled, can really make people to do what is right, either as governor or as the governed. And that is why I also believe that if religion is properly handled, if government allows religious teachings and ethics to be properly taught in our schools, in our public institutions, and so on, I believe that we'll be able to combat the mis-teachings, the lack of knowledge, the improper understanding of religion that we have in our country. I also believe that corruption in Nigeria affects so many things, including the issue of security in Nigeria. You want to work, you want to earn a living. Where you are supposed to earn a living, somebody, because he's corrupt, had blocked your means of livelihood. What is expected to be used to cater for the people, to provide job for the people, somebody had acquired it. So when a group, it's not a justification that because you are deprived, then you must be criminal. That is not what I'm saying. But there are people, a large number of people who would not have been criminal were it not for the fact that they were pushed to the wall. What we are saying is that corruption and even drug abuse could be responsible for some of the things that we see the reaction being violence. We believe that violence would not have been the first call. Many people would not have been violent if not that they are pushed to the wall. What we are saying is that while we are trying to look into the ideological reasons behind some of this violence, there is also the need for the government to address basic problems of the people, particularly corruption, where we attend the same school, we graduate the same year, and suddenly because you are connected to one person or the other, you find the other person in sudden wealth. and the wealth is inexplicable. Just because he's connected with one public officer or the other, he becomes suddenly wealthy. The other person is depressed. The other person is looking for a way of getting rich or getting on the same pedestal with the person who was not better than he is, but for one reason or the other had become what he has become. What we are saying is that the government in Nigeria needs a comprehensive approach to the issue of insecurity in Nigeria, to the issue of poverty in Nigeria. It's not just by throwing money at people that you solve the problem. You need to look at the needs, you need to look at the causatives and address those issues.
And at the heart of that, you're saying accountability and transparency is a crucial point.
It's very crucial. When you are not accountable, when we do not trust what you are doing, when you find out that the pattern of life is distinctly cannot be correlated with your official earning, then there is a problem. Many people want to go through that because leaders are supposed to be models. When they are not models, when they flaunt even the wealth, some of them don't even hold their marriages in Nigeria again. When their children are wedding, they fly both the bride and the groom abroad. They flaunt the wealth on national media, and you make the poor depressed
and resentful.
And resentful of the wealth of the wealthy. It's not uncommon in Nigeria now that when you see an affluent person, a rich man going, you could see contempt for such a person. For the wealthy, even if the wealth is legitimate, you can see contempt from the poor because it is assumed that whoever is wealthy had gone to that level or had attained that wealth through illegitimate means, which is not totally true. But we have created that feeling. It's a perception, and perception can be as potent as reality, that people believe that our leaders are corrupt. Because they are corrupt, they also just use that to justify their own pockets of corruption, which they think. And those pockets of corruption, they could accumulate and become more serious than the bigger corruption, but they use such to justify what they are doing. That if our leaders could be this corrupt, then maybe I could be pardoned for this level of corruption, which is not correct, but that is the situation.
So you believe that, in addition to a complete overhaul of the way we run government in Nigeria, that to teach ethics in schools, to teach those religious principles, this gets back to the comment you made about it being a potent tool. Now, you remind me of a fuss that we've had here in Britain over the last few weeks. There's been a suggestion that some of our schools, in particular in Birmingham, have been at the heart of a Trojan horse plot, it was described, to Islamicize the school. That our Prime Minister just last weekend suggested that there needs to be a implementation of British values in our schools. Now, what do you make about this trend? It seems to some that this is about demonizing Muslims.
I believe that UK had been a pluralistic society, had promoted pluralism, and it is in the interest of UK to do so. This demonization of Islam should not be allowed to operate in UK. I believe that everybody has the right to be different within legitimate means. I believe that the UK that I know, I do not claim to know UK more than your Prime Minister, but I think your Prime Minister should not allow the aura of power to rob him of correct perception of what is on the streets. I think UK is a pluralistic society, and what is going on in UK should be modeled where you have a principle of live and let live. If you decide to live your life one way, yes, you are allowed, provided you do not encroach on the rights of others. I believe that to trample on the right of Muslims in UK will be a recipe for confusion, a recipe for resentment, a recipe for even disagreement in the country. I think it is in the interest of all lovers of UK that pluralism should be allowed. We should not impose, in any case, what do we call British values? I do not see British values of honesty, pluralism, tolerance as antithetic to Islamic values. They are Islam supports all those good values in Britain, and I do not see them as mutually exclusive. I can see that what the Prime Minister was talking about, whether he knows that or not, are the same thing that Islam is preaching, that we understand one another, we live harmoniously together. But Islam will not support imposition of one worldview on the other. I have the right to be different. If you want to go about naked, once you do that within the law, yes, but if I want to protect essential parts of my body, if I want to appear decently, what I term as being decent, and I do not encroach on your own right, I do not think that Britain should be pushed to an intolerant level of trying to impose a particular worldview on the populace. Muslims have right to live their lives as Muslims and to coexist with others. And they also have the right to propagate their religion, just like others have the right to propagate. But to now turn Britain into, as is likely to be interpreted, into an anti-Islamic society, that would not be good for history of Britain. It will not be good for the future of Britain. It will not even be in the interest of the propagators of such devilish idea.
Now, talking about promoting coexistence, yes. I understand that you are organising, and you have done in the past, a youth summit, yes, to mark the 55th anniversary of Nigeria's independence, yes, yes. And you're aiming to focus on training young people on issues of mutual coexistence. How important then is it to build bridges, to build relationships between different people of different faiths? And do you think that targeting the youth is a key to achieving a meaningful result in a climate, let's face it, in Nigeria of continued sectarian division and conflict?
Surprisingly, I believe the youth, a large proportion of the youth in Nigeria, they are not deceived by the present disagreement into believing that Muslims and non-Muslims cannot coexist. What we are doing, what we have been doing, is to reinforce the belief of a large proportion of Nigerian populace who know that religion is not about violence. Islam and Christianity should coexist, and that's what we have been doing. And the youth, we are targeting them because we believe that the minority who creates religious violence and religious problem in Nigeria should not be allowed to have the whole space to themselves. We need to reassure the youth, who the majority of the youths who are understanding, who cooperate with one another, who live harmoniously together, who tweet together, who discuss both on land and online with across religious and ethnic divide. What we have been doing and what we plan to do with that forum, with that summit next year, is to get those people, get them together, reinforce their belief in the unity of our country, reinforce their belief in the good values, the values in religion, that religion, particularly Abrahamic religion, they are from the same source, and they preach what they have in common are more than where they disagree. And we want to bring them up to be more vocal so that their voices, good voice, will not drown with the noise of those minority who create hatred, who preach hatred, who misdirect people in authority to be unfair, to be unjust, to be, you see, we want to promote what is good among the youth so that the youth can continue to have belief, even when you have transient problem, when you have a government that is not fair religiously, when you have a large proportion of the appointments going in one direction, you must know that the person at the helm of affair is bad. It's not Christianity that teaches him to be unfair to others. Christianity that we understand, Islam that we understand, will not allow discrimination. But when you have people who are doing so, we want to let the youth know that it is not based on the religions of those who misapply religion, but just transient and lack of proper capability on the side of those people.
Because I'm conscious of the time, move on to a topic which has obsessed the world's media in the last few weeks, and I'm referring to the kidnapping of 200 schoolgirls in Nigeria and various attacks, including just last week the slaughtering of hundreds of people in 3 villages across the far northeast corner of Nigeria by the Islamist group also called Boko Haram. The outlawed group has vowed to continue its campaign of violence until the country is ruled by Sharia law. I note in the mission statement of the Council, of which you are the Secretary General, that its purpose is to promote the continued application of Sharia in Nigeria and the observance of Islamic morality. Yet His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Said Abubakar, the President of your Council, has called on, and I quote, all Muslims in the country to unite against Boko Haram extremists. Is this call by His Eminence more to do with the methods of Boko Haram rather than the righteousness of their objectives?
I do not believe that those who are behind or those who are executing the program of Boko Haram have the genuine interest of the Sharia in mind. Sharia that I understand, Sharia that I know as a student of Islamics will not allow a person who wants to promote Sharia to be unfair to others. You don't kill people indiscriminately, even in war fronts. You don't kill women, you don't kill children, you do not. There are rules of Sharia. If actually you want to promote Sharia, you must have to abide by the principles of the Sharia. In Islam, the means is as important as the end. You do not achieve a positive end through an illegitimate means. For us, there are so many conspiracy theories going on in Nigeria about Boko Haram. Some believe that it's the federal government itself that is behind it to denigrate Islam, to trample on the right of the Muslims, that's one theory. There's another theory that, Muslims who are politicians who lost out of power, they are the one promoting Boko Haram against the federal government. Some people even allege that it's the CIA in the United States of America there are so many of such conspiracy theories. But my position and the position of the council is that we believe in God. Whoever is behind this Boko Haram, which we believe is not Islam, we believe that whoever is behind it, God in His infinite mercy will expose those people. And because there are many non-Muslims who had been caught to be either throwing bomb or doing one thing or the other, but one way or the other, the security agencies will not allow such to come into the open. The security agencies will orchestrate once the culprit is a Muslim or he goes by a Muslim name. But when such people are found not to be Muslims, then there is absolute silence about it because it doesn't fall into the programmed profile. So what we are saying is that the government of Nigeria needs to be very serious, needs to be very careful, needs to be straightforward in this fight against violence or the Boko Haram issue in Nigeria. Because many genuine Muslims believe that insincerity, we could see a lot of insincerity, people being unfairly accused, people being unduly detained, people being, without the process of law, being killed because of one perception or the other. We believe that those who are criminals, when they are caught, they should be made to face the law and they criminals should be treated as criminals. But we should not demonize other Muslims. Muslims in Nigeria are not responsible for the security of Nigeria. It is the government of Nigeria that is responsible. Majority of those people who had been killed on this Boko Haram are Muslims. Large number of those who have been killed with this episode are Muslims. How can Muslims, genuine Muslims, be promoting things that will cause the life of the Muslims? Then it means that we have to go deeper and we have to be sincere and open in the way we handle the issue of the violence. Nigerian Muslims are not for violence. We have our grievances against government, and we continue to channel those grievances. We believe we are being discriminated against. We believe we are being persecuted by the federal government. We believe that so many things are against us in Nigeria, but we believe violence is not the answer. We believe what we should do is what His Eminence the Sultan has said. We approach the government to call attention to our grievances, where we believe that Muslims are being discriminated against, where it's possible for somebody who claims to be a religious leader to say, for instance, Muslim voice should not be heard in the management of the national media. And it appears government is dancing towards such divisive call. That is unfair. Muslims are not happy, but at the same time, Muslims will be in worse position than we are presently, were we to allow violence to be the language. And that is why we are calling on all people of goodwill across the world to ensure justice, to prevail on government of Nigeria to be just to all, not to be partisan on the basis of ethnicity, not to be partisan on the basis of religion. We believe Nigeria will be better for all of us if we are fair to all persons.
Now, you say that you're calling on all people of reasonable understanding to deal with this issue. Recently, the United States President Obama made reference to what he called the legitimate concerns of Boko Haram while he made his West Point commencement speech. He said, tragically, no American security operation can eradicate the threat posed by an extremist group like Boko Haram, the group that kidnapped those girls, he said. And that's why we have to focus not just on rescuing the girls right away, but also on supporting Nigerian efforts to educate its youth. In the next breath, he has applied to Congress for $5 billion to help with, to defuse what he called the new local terrorists in Africa. What do you make of this call for Western support, albeit in what I think he called clandestine?
What looks like double talk. But as far as I'm concerned, America is served by its history. You have to be cautious in dealing with America, because you know that even at the international level, when you say, oh, Muslims are doing this, if the Iran-Iraq war, America can be directly and sincerely implicated in the issue of creation of violence everywhere in the world. While America was having issues with USSR, created Osama bin Laden, and while they wanted to fight Iraq, they created Iraq, empowered Saddam Hussein against Iran, and at one point or the other, and today, it appears that America is going the whole circle, is now using Iran to fight the Sunni, and so on. America itself needs to be careful. I do not understand, because they blow hot, they blow cold. There are legitimate concerns. We know, even Nigerians know that there are legitimate concerns, and we continue to struggle against that. I do not think that would be an opportunity, that should be an excuse for America to continue to impose its will on the poor people of the third world. I do not understand the double talk, but I believe that if America is sincere and sincerely offering a legitimate hand of fellowship, then supporting education, supporting healthcare, supporting mutual understanding, that will be okay. But in a situation that you just want to use the unfortunate situation in Nigeria to further exploit the country and create more division. Iraq is not better today than it was before the invasion.
Well,
yes, America should know that it's not sufficient for America to say, oh, we are helping. We believe that they create the problem, they find some solution to the problem, and when the problem gets out of hand, of course, they don't want to be blamed. I believe that we should be very careful in accepting the gift from America, but of course, beggars have no choice. We have put ourselves in a situation that any help from anywhere will appear good. But we need to be careful in order, given the antecedents of the United States of America, so that they do not create problems where none exist.
Now, on that note, Professor Ishaq Oloyede,
yes,
Secretary General of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, thank you so much for joining us on Islam Channel.
Thank
it's
you,
been an
Carl.
honor.
Fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.